Hi, everybody. This is Kristen Fagan with a new episode of Free Spirit Beading. And I'm just going to give a few moments to let a few people join us. All right. So it looks like we got a few friends on here. Hey, everyone. Hi, Lydia and Pamela, and hello, Fern again, and Trudy and Paula. Great to see everybody. So today we are going to be working with soft flex beading wire and doing some macrame. We're going to do a square knot. Hello. Hi, Tony again. Hi, Beverly, Marjorie, Julie. Good to see everybody. I am Kristen Fagan. I am a Softlex company graphic designer and jewelry educator here. And a lot of you know me from my Free Spirit Beading episodes over on the Softlex company YouTube channel. But now I am streaming to both YouTube and Facebook. So there'll be a lot more friends on here to chat with. Hi from New Jersey, Beatrice and Becky. Hello, everybody. Barbara, good to see you all. So, a couple of things before I get started. Let's talk about what we've got on sale. I've got some. We've got an extra 20% off our curated color red coral category. And this is good until tomorrow, February 16th. And it says extra 20% off because a lot of the items in there are already on sale. And then you'll get an extra 20% off. When you add it to your cart, it'll be an automatic savings. It does not apply with any other order discount. All right. Oh, Marjorie says, I could never see, let's see. I could never see why I really needed to use it, but it's all about how the necklace lays on the neck. It's so true. You know, that is the difference with all the different types of materials that you're going to use to string your beads on, is how it actually lays and how it holds its shape, the security, the stability of it, you know, the longevity, all of that stuff comes into play. So thank you for that. Oh. All sorts of fun things and buttons to hit. Elizabeth is enjoying her softlex. Thank you. Okay, so I've got our red coral, and I'm going to share with you. Actually, let me bring over my demo table. Let's see. So we can talk a little bit about the red. So during the Great Bead Extravaganza, I made this 3-strand bracelet with beads from our Valentine Passion Kit. And that also came with a spool of our red coral color beading wire. As you can see right here, I did this loopy design to allow the wire to show. And then here is another design where you can knit softlex beading wire. So this is done with the knitting spool. And I have this tutorial over on the YouTube playlist for knitting. Have these little crystal charms just added on there, some little hearts. So those are 2 designs showing some of our red coral beading wire, which is this one right here. And this is our newest wire to go on closeout. So we've currently got this wire on sale for 20% off. and or 15% off, I think actually. And then you'll get an extra 20% off when you add it to your cart. And you can find it in 10-foot, 30-foot, and 100-foot spools. This is a color that once we are sold out of it, we will not be bringing it back. This is one of our original Softflex company colors, and we still have quite a bit in stock, so it's not going to run out too fast. But since it is a color that we are going to be eventually closing out, you can get it on a super special deal right now. And so when you go to that red coral category, you'll see the beading wire, but you'll also see a collection of beads and any other items that have red in them. And those with like some bead stoppers are in there. I know that for sure. Some different kinds of beads. Those are all on sale until tomorrow. Hope says she couldn't figure out how to end the loopy design. Here, I'll show you on the bracelet here. So in this case, I connected it to a jump ring, but you would take the two wires through a crimp tube, create a loop, and go back through the crimp tube. And you only have to go one wire back through to create your loop, and then you trim off all your edges. And then you can attach it to your clasp or your jump ring. And that's the same on both sides. So you've got the two wires going up through the crimp tube and then one wire coming back down to create that loop. You crimp it and then you trim off all your tails. I hope that that helps. And I think I shared a little bit in the video in the Great Bead Extravaganza. All right, so the other thing I need to talk about before I get started is we've also got 20% off a selection of products that we use during the Great Bead Extravaganza. So we have a category at softflexcompany.com that is called Great Bead Extravaganza, and everything in that category is also 20% off until tomorrow. So that includes our Pantone Color of the Year, Colors of the Year check glass bead mix. And I think we've only got about 15 or so of these left. It's a nice big bag of check glass. Also includes the Pantone Duo, which is 10 feet of our yellow and 10 feet of the Soft Touch premium beading wire in the 019 diameter. If you haven't tried the Soft Touch before, pick this guy up. You can play with this really fun yellow wire, but you can also see the difference between how the Soft Touch feels and lays compared to the Soft Flex. When I am just totally stringing something and it's going to be completely covered and I don't need the color, I usually will reach for my Soft Touch because it has a really nice drape, especially if you're doing things with small beads or multi-strands. It lays more similar to a thread than a wire. So it's really a great product, and I love that it was included in this Pantone Duo as the gray color so that you guys can really give that a try. And then we have a bunch of the tools that were used. So if you need a pair of cutters, they're in that Great Bead Extravaganza category for 20% off. We have the nylon jaw pliers, which is excellent for the craft wire. Also the wire looping pliers and the magical crimping pliers. Now we did sell out of the regular magical crimper, but we do have this one, which is the ergonomic handle one still in stock. So you can pick up that one at 20% off. It has the same mechanism on the top. The only difference is the shape and curve of the handles. And like I said, that'll end tomorrow, February 16th at midnight Pacific time. So let me move some stuff out of the way and let's talk about macrame. So I've got here a little mini macrame board. We sell these at softflexcompany.com. They are wonderful for macrame projects, they are also great if you're doing any kind of wrap where you need your wires to kind of stay in place because you're wrapping things around, so you don't always have to knot it with macrame. And it's a lot of fun too to just kind of stick things in the notches, and you can have projects in process on your board, saving them for later. So it's a really great little board. You can get away with doing macrame without a board like this, of course, but when you are working with soft flex beading wire, because of that nylon coating, it could be a little bit more slippery, and therefore this particular material with these notches in here is very helpful to hold it in place. Oh, we got so many friends watching today. Happy to see everybody. Okay, so here on the left, I worked on a red design, and in these macrame designs, I'm using a button today. So I'm going to show you guys how to finish it off with a button. This is that really cool snake button that I picked up during the Softflex Company live sale the last time we had one. I don't think we'll have another one till March, but stay tuned to that. So you'll see I've got my wire crimped to the button, and then I have the square knot macrame, and I stuck with red and red on this one, meaning I have a red for my wrapping wire, my knotting wire, and red for my under wire. So all red coral. These are the beads, fire polished beads that were in the Valentine Passion kit. And then we're going to finish it off by crimping, and then some seed beads. We're going to wrap it around to attach to the button. So I'm going to put this one aside for right now, and we'll come back to that to show how to end it. And then this one I did using the Pantone colors of the year. I had this sweet little yellow flower button, and I'm using the satin silver as the base wire, and then the yellow as the knotting wire. So you can see how it looks when there's two colors going on, a little peak action from the color that is the base wire. So I'm going to stick this guy back in here, and I'm going to show you first how to start this off, and then we'll work on finishing it. And then I'll show you how to actually do the button closure with this one here. So I'm going to start with a button. This is a Tiara Cast button from our friends over at Tiara Cast. It's just one that I happen to have in my stash. Isn't that flower so cute? Angela says, oh my goodness, that little flower is fabulous. I have just like a little container with some buttons in there that I've had forever, and that was just the perfect one for this project. Okay, so I'm going to cut 2 feet about of wire for the satin silver color. And I forget that you guys can see me right now too. I should probably just go big to the demo. I forgot about that part. I'm not used to there being the 2 cameras. Okay. So I'm going to take my button, and I'm going to take my 2 feet of satin silver wire. I'm just going to pass it through the button and find the center. And I'm going to pick out, I need some crimps, so I'm going to take out one of my 2x2 crimps. I've got my little crimp container propping up my macrame board. Okay, so I'm just going to take that 2x2 crimp tube and I'm sliding it on the satin silver wire, and I'm just pulling it all the way up towards my button. Now I'm going to use my magical crimping pliers to crimp that closed. And this is the ergonomic handle pair, so it's a little bit different to hold it, but it works the same way. Just got to get that crimp right in the center notch and give it a nice squeeze. It'll pinch the four corners, and then I'm going to turn it 90 degrees into my tool again. Get it right in the center. Actually, let me just make some space for myself here. Turn it 90 degrees, and then I'm going to go around a few times. And I've got my button crimped. I'm just going to slide it into one of these notches, and then I'm going to pull the wires down and tuck it into this bottom notch here. Okay, now I'm going to grab the yellow for my knotting wire, and I would cut about 5 feet for the knotting wire. I'm going to do a smaller length just for my demo here, so I'm not working with so much wire. But you would need about 5 feet of your knotting wire. So you're going to slide that underneath your satin silver, and you're going to find your center, just like so. Let me pull this down. Okay, and so we're going to knot on the right side, and then we're going to do the same thing on the left side, and that will complete our square knot. And we're going to do that 5 times in the beginning. So I'm going to take, I have my yellow wire running under these 2 center wires. My right wire is going to go across the center up, and then the left side is going to go across this wire that's coming right there on top, and then you're going to go under the 2 center wires and you're going to pull it through the loop. And I always hit the camera when I do this because I'm working in like such a tight little space. I want it close enough to you that I always end up hitting it, so I apologize. I had a little bounce there. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the left side. So I'm going to create that loop. It's going to go over my 2 center wires. Then this wire on the right is going to go over the yellow and then tuck it under the 2 center and pull it through that loop we made. And then pull it tight. And now we're going to just pop this off for a second. And you'll see that's my first knot and it's way down here. So I'm just going to push it up to my button. And you really just do that on your first knot, slide it up, and then it should be good the rest of the way. So we're going to do the same thing again. So that's considered one complete knot. So we're going to do the right side, cross over your center, left goes over the yellow, under the center, through this loop, and pull it tight, and then do it on the other side. So you make your loop with the left, cross over the center, the right side goes over the yellow, under the center two, through the loop, and pull it down. So now we have two complete square knots. And then I just do that a few more times, kind of to get started in the beginning. We'll do one more on the left, one more on the right. All right, so I'm going to pop that off, and that's how you get started. And I'm going to come back now to this one so that we can add in some of our beads. So at this point, I did here, I've got the 5 square knots, and then I added a yellow bead. And then I did 3, and then a bead, 3, and then a bead. And that was my pattern the rest of the way down, is 3 knots between each bead. So let me see what I need next here. It looks like I need one of these, which I meant to keep out, but I think I dumped it back into my bag. There's one, and there's the other. So after 3 knots, we're going to add in a bead. So all you do is you take your wires from the knots that you had at home place there. You've got these 2 wires, and you're going to string on your bead. So one thing to note is if you want to do a design like this where the beads are just in the center nice and neatly, and you need to have a bead that's going to go through 2 Softlex medium wires. So before I started the project, I just checked a bunch of the beads from this bag here, and I pulled out all the ones that were good for going through 2 strands, and then I worked with those to come up with my pattern. All right, Deborah says, I love making macrame jewelry, but I always have trouble calculating how much cord or wire I need for my project. Do you have a tip to share about the issue, please, Kristen? Yeah, that's a good question, Deborah. So I work with about, well, in this case, I did 2 feet on the bottom because we looped it around a bead, but a button. But if you're not looping it around the button, I would do a foot and a foot for my bottom base. And then I usually have about 5 feet for the knotting wire. And the nice thing about this board is that there are numbers down the side to help you with your calculations. So I know I want to stop between 6 and 6.5 inches, because for my beaded clasp, it's going to take another 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch. So you really have to base it off of how large is your clasp area going to be. If you're just using a lobster clasp and a little ring, that's going to be probably about a 1/2 inch. If you're doing a toggle or a button, you might need closer to an inch. And then depending on the size of your bracelet, if you want to make a 6.5 inch bracelet, you're going to want to stop knotting at around 5.5 so that you've got a full inch for your toggle or your button. And if you want a 6.5 inch bracelet and you're doing like a lobster clasp, and maybe you can get all the way to 6, and then you'd stop and add your clasp there. I really feel like it's for me, it's been kind of trial and error. And then once I get a size that I know fits me well, I can just use that particular design to measure out the next one. So I don't necessarily have a tip as knowing an exact measurement. And obviously, also if you're using different beads, so these beads are pretty large. If I was using smaller beads, I'm going to end up using more wire. So there are some variables. I would say I would probably do like a demonstration first, and then come up with the sizing, work through it, and then I can use that in future projects. I hope that helps. It's the knotting wire is the problem. Yeah, if you cut like 5 to 6 feet, you should have enough knotting wire for a bracelet with some left over. Okay, so now that I've got my bead on the 2 wires and I slide it all the way up, I'm going to do my knotting the same way. We're just going to kind of catch the bead. So I make the loop on the right. It's going over the center wires. The left is going over the yellow, under the center, and through that loop. And then I'll pull it, and you'll see this one kind of bounces back a little bit. It doesn't really pull into place until you get the other half done. So now we go on the left side, cross over the center wires, go over the right, under, and then what I usually do is just kind of tug this knot close to the bead, and then I can pull this one up and tighten it. And there's one, and then I'm going to do 2 more, and then add in another bead. And I'm going to say I definitely struggle sometimes with the sizing of designs. Usually, if I'm doing something where I'm unsure, I sometimes have to do the design before I do a video and test out the sizing of it and make any adjustments before I go live. And I think that's the case whenever I do something that's a new design, or I'm changing the bead size or changing something in it, that there might be a slight difference. All right, so same thing. I'm just going to pull this one close to the bead and then pop that one up. And one thing that I love about macrame is once you get the knot down, it's really just the same thing repeated. So you don't have to think about it as much once you kind of get it going. All right, let's see where we're at here. So I am going to just add maybe 1 or 2 more if I want to keep it the same as I did on the other side. Okay, and now I'm getting close to 6.5 here. So I'm going to pop this off because I know it's going to end up being too long if I don't stop. So let's just take a look. Isn't that yellow fun? It's such a bright, cheerful yellow. And I think it's really nice with that gray, those gray beads in the center. So these beads were kind of an odd shape. So what I did when I pulled on these is I pulled it real tight and then I just tucked the wires on the back side. So you can either wear it that way or you could wear it that way. But that's kind of what I did for it because it's not a perfect round shape like this one. It kind of fits real nice on the sides. So I just pulled that one a little bit tighter and popped it on the back. All right, so I'm going to show you now what to do with these 4 wires at the bottom. Let's move this out of my way. So when you're working with soft flex beading wire in the medium and the 2x2 crimp tubes, which is the only size crimp tube that works with the magical crimping plier, you're only going to get 3 strands total through a crimp. So in a design like this where I have 4 coming down, you've got to be a little more creative and figure out how are we going to end this. Now I could end it with a larger crimp, a 3x3 crimp and the mighty crimping pliers, and that would take them all in no problem. But a lot of times I have the 2x2 in stock the most, and that's what I want to use. And I also want to use my magical crimping plier. So in this case, I'm going to separate 2 and 2, and I'm going to crimp them that way. So there's one, and then I'll crimp the other. And now those are nice and finished. And I think what I'm going to do is cut away the 2 satin silver wires. So using my flush cutter, I can go right up to that crimp and trim off the 2 satin silver colors, leaving just 2 yellow. And now I can add, if I had left more space, you can even add a bead here or something if you wanted to create another bead in between. And then I can add my 3rd crimp there. And I'm going to take the wire back down. Just one of them back down to create that loop. So I've got 2 wires going up and just one of them looping and coming back down. And what am I thinking? That's way too small. So I need to fit this into my button. I won't want it to be too big, but I do want it to fit in my button. And you could add beads around this edge as well. I'm going to show you that in the next one. Let me see if I make it a little smaller, if it'll still fit. It does. Can we go a little smaller? And I'm just tugging on the tail to try that out. Oh, that one's just too small. So now I will pull that back up. Just a little bit. All right, so that fits there. So I'm going to go ahead and crimp my last crimp here. Oh, Fern is asking, cute button, do we sell that? We do not. I found it in my beading stash. But we are selling some fun vintage buttons on our live sales. We've done that in the last couple of live sales. And I think we may still continue. So keep a lookout. And now you could just trim off the excess. And that's how you can close it with just the wire. And then on this one, I added some seed beads so that when I close it, move some stuff out of the way. So I've got the same thing going on here. I have the 2 crimps, then I cut away 2 of the wires, leaving just 2, and then I brought them together into that one. And then I added some of these tiny red seed beads. These actually came in the Valentine Passion Kit. And I have a bead stopper here to hold them in place until I was ready. Let's go ahead and take that off. And it's a little tough to try and get it in the crimp when it's so close to the other 2. So do yourself a favor, just kind of open up the space a little bit, and then you'll be able to slide your wire and make your loop more easily. And then you can kind of scoot your crimp back down and tighten up your loop that way. And now if you have beads on here, it is a great idea to use a bead stopper. This is a mini bead stopper, but you can use a regular bead stopper also. And just put that in place so that you can test out where it goes around your button without losing your beads. You can even test it out on your wrist. So now that I know that that fits, I'm just going to get my wires in place, put this crimp tube in the center, and then you go 90 degrees, and then you kind of roll it around in there to create your crimp. So these magical crimping pliers have 1 notch. There's like a half dome on each side. So really what you're doing is you're placing your crimp. It has to be center. That is the whole key. Has to be center. And then you're squeezing it. You'll take it out. You'll turn your crimp 90 degrees. It has to be center again. Squeeze it. And then I like to just roll it in that little notch and kind of pump and squeeze. And that'll round it out for you. But it has to stay center the whole time. So the whole time you're doing it, you have to make sure your crimp is in there. And I've said to other people, it really is more of a feeling. Like a lot of times if I'm looking, I can't always tell, but I can feel that it's like sitting in there. So it takes a lot of practice because you have to like really notice that feeling. And I still don't get them right every single time, but more often than not, they work out okay. And then you can trim up your wires, and there is how that one looks. And then I have another example here of, this is one I did a while ago, actually 2015 to be exact. It was in Belle Armoire Jewelry in their September, October, November 2015 issue. Let's see, called Luxe Macramé. So I did that one a really long time ago. And I finished them off with those tiara cast buttons, just like I showed you in the beginning. And in this case, instead of doing one bead that runs down the center, because they were so small, I did a bead on the right and then a bead on the left. So those are strung on the center strands, but just every other one. This is done, I think, with the red jasper and the citrine wire. These beads need to be polished up a little bit, but like I said, they're about 6 years old, this design. And in this case, I just left all the wires at the bottom. I did a large crimp tube and then I used some craft wire to cover the crimp tube because I really don't like crimp covers. I'm not good at those at all. So I used some craft wire instead to kind of give it a hand wrapped end. And then I kept all the wire there to go through the loop. So that's another way you can end it. And that was in orange, and then I'm wearing the one in brass and bone. So this was antique brass and bone color. What kind of size of beads is that one? Are you asking on this one, Tony? Oh gosh, they're probably about 2 millimeter. Yeah, they like, whenever I try to use crimp covers, they pop out and I lose them, and or I get them to crimp around the crimp like perfectly, but then it's not tight enough and it slides up and down. Sarah has shared with me her tips of closing the crimp cover kind of like this. So it's not, you're not trying to hit it at seam to seam. You're doing one seam down and then one seam over. And that is a nice little tight cover, but it's still frustrating. So I just don't bother using them, and I tend to do stuff like this instead. So those are all done with, all of these designs here are done with the square knot, but you can also use the spiral knot, and that is doing just on the one side. So instead of going on the right and the left to make a square, you would just keep knotting on the right, or just keep knotting on the left, just staying with one size, and you'll get a little spiral. And this design is on the Softflex YouTube playlist for macrame. So you could take a look there if you want to check that out. And that's a different variation using the blue topaz color. This color I think is completely sold out with the exception of it being in a couple of trios. So we have a few trios that have the blue topaz in it, and once those trios are gone, I think this color is totally gone, which is sad. It's such a pretty blue. So that one's blue topaz. And like I said, I think there's just a few trios left. So look in the multicolor trio section, and you'll see which ones have the blue topaz in there. All right, you guys, that was awesome. There I am again. Let's see. So before I pop off, just a few reminders on the stuff we have for sale. We've got the 20% off of our curated color. Oh, my camera's up here. I got to remember where to look. Red coral category. And you'd find that at softflexcompany.com. Go to the shop and curated color section, and there's a subcategory called red coral. So everything in there is 20% off or an extra 20% off if it's already on sale. There's also a link right from the homepage that should get you there too. So that ends tomorrow, February 16th at midnight Pacific time. And then we also have 20% off in the Great Bead Extravaganza category. That also ends tomorrow, February 16th at midnight Pacific time. So this week, I think we've got Sarah again here on Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific time for a jewelry demonstration. And then I will see you guys again next Monday at 3 p.m. Pacific time with something new to share with you for the next episode of Free Spirit Beading. Thank you all for being here. It's nice to have so many friends online. If I missed any of your comments, I apologize. There's a lot more comments coming through than I'm used to when I'm just on YouTube only. So I'll try and go back and answer anything I can if I missed something. All right, be well, have a wonderful week, and I will catch you here next Monday. Bye, everybody.